time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome one and all to a special morning Dew edition of the Dew Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular once again.
Hello.
Let's see how organized your soundboard really is. Can you find a little Dolly Parton for us this morning? How quickly can you come up with that?
That should be relatively easy. Yeah.
Tumble out of bed and I stumble to the kitchen, pour myself a cup of ambition.
Nice. Well done. Well done. Yeah. Few things that I'm still looking for here. My Rappaport laugh. Where's my Rappaport laugh?
Okay, so real people.
Yeah.
Real people are together and alphabetized.
Got it. Oh, real people together. Oh, yeah. We got Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Finkelstein, Hitler, FHR, Rappaport, Russ, Savage. There you go. Scarborough. Beautiful.
They've surrendered to the communists.
There you go. Got all that working. Look at that. Look at that organization. Look at that organization. So I have my dog here in the office with me at her request, but my kids are not going to be coming home until after the show when I go get them, so we shouldn't have a freak out.
All right, good. Well, yeah. I have made an addition to our set. So Ellen gave us both kippas, gave us both Alabama-themed kippas when she came.
Yes.
So, I've always felt a little uncomfortable about this skull being so voodoo oriented. So Harry has converted.
There we go. Yes, indeed.
So indeed. He is now one of the tribe.
That looks great. It looks great. The audience wants to see the dog. Here. Come up here. Come up here. Jump up. Jump up. Come on. All right, I'm going to try this. I hope this works. There she is. See her down there?
Yeah, there's
Penny.
the dog.
There's the dog. So I'm a little hesitant to move this webcam around too much because
that's
I don't want it to freeze and kick me out of the office. But there you go. You got a little peek.
Suck.
She used to jump up when she was a puppy. She's 7 years old. She's getting the little whites around her eyes now, the way the Goldens do. She's a yellow lab hound mix. There she is. Yeah, there's your nose. See a little snout there? You got a little snout up there? All right, go take a nap or something. All right, hold on 1 second. Gotta scooch in. There you go. All right, so you got a little tease of her. We got a bunch of stuff going on today to close out a work week for us. Thank you guys all very much for being here. Make sure you smash that like button over on YouTube and on Rumble. Let's wake everybody up here working against the algorithm this early in the morning. YouTube says most of your audience is not online at this time. So we got to wake people up and get them in here.
Wakey!
Yes, that's right. That's right. Got to get everybody up and at it. All right, let's jump right in. This was a fun piece of news. I like this story. This is a funny story. Funny way to start the day, nice and light. Climate protesters arrested over spraying orange paint on Stonehenge monuments. 2 climate protesters who sprayed orange paint on the ancient Stonehenge monument in southern England were arrested Wednesday after 2 bystanders appeared to intervene and stop them. The latest act by Just Stop Oil was quickly condemned by Prime Minister Rishi Sunak as a disgraceful act of vandalism. Labour leader Keir Starmer, his main opponent in the election next month, called the group pathetic and said the damage was outrageous.
Where the fuck do you get the balls?
Said, where the fuck do you get the balls? Spraying orange paint on Stonehenge. The incident came just a day before thousands are expected to gather at the roughly 4,500-year-old stone circle to celebrate the summer solstice, the longest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. English Heritage, which manages the site, said it was extremely upsetting and said curators were investigating the damage. Just Stop Oil said the paint was made of cornstarch and would dissolve in the rain. Video released by the group showed a man it identified as Rajan Naidu, 73, unleash a fog of orange from a fire extinguisher-style paint sprayer at one of the vertical stones. This was like an old man who did this. These weren't like, so usually it's kids who do this.
Yeah.
As voices can be heard yelling, "Stop!" a person wearing a ball cap and raincoat ran up and grabbed Naidu's arm and tried to pull him away from the monument. A man in a blue shirt joined and wrestled the paint sprayer away. The second protester, who was younger, identified as Niam Lynch, 21, managed to spray 3 stones before the first bystander in the hat stopped her. Let's go to the tweet here, which they put out. Breaking, Just Stop Oil. They tweeted this out. Just Stop Oil spray Stonehenge orange. 2 people took action the day before summer solstice, demanding the incoming government sign up to a legally binding treaty to phase out fossil fuels by 2030. Here's the video. Jesus Christ. Could you imagine being there when they do that?
Great for the cause. It's great for the cause, guys.
Great. Oh, just, I mean, social media really does allow you to document the stupidity of mankind. Like, it really brings idiocracy to everyone on their devices. Imagine being there and seeing that happen. Just, this very peaceful place surrounded by nature. And look at this fucking, wow. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So, they say here, because they got a lot of backlash for this, obviously, the orange cornflower we use will soon wash away with the rain, but the urgent need for effective government action to mitigate the catastrophic consequences of the climate and ecological crisis will not. And so this got community noted. Readers added context they thought people might want to know. Lichen covers and protects the stones of Stonehenge. Damage to the lichen will mean that the stones are less protected from pollution in the environment. Contact with the stones is limited to protect them. So I guess lichen is like a fungus that grows on the stones that protects them from wind and weather erosion, and paint. But I guess the paint softens it.
All right, how far to the pyramids? This camel dong's not getting any lighter.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll show them. Yeah, no, that's going to be very, very persuasive to people.
Yeah.
Damaging one of the collective treasures of humanity.
Of humanity, yes. This is like, what are they, 5,000 years old, something like that? Right? What are they, from 2500 BC, something like that?
Yeah, I was there when I was like 19. It was my first time in Europe. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So this is the website that community note links to. So the source is stonehengevisit.uk. Why can't all people touch the stones? So visitors were able to touch the stones. However, unfortunately, some people were carving names into the stones or taking small parts of the stones away as a keepsake or memory. Stonehenge was also laser scanned to understand the extent of the damage taken place to the stones over time, and it was significant, and people caused the vast majority of the damage. People harming the environment. That's why people are not allowed to fuck with the stones, because people tend to harm the environment, which you think is a phenomenon Just Stop Oil might be somewhat familiar with. There were once carvings on the stones from axe work, but over time these have faded due to the constant touching of hands. Also, with people constantly touching the stones, the lichen that surrounds the stones, which is also protecting them, will be less able to grow and will mean that the stones are less protected by pollution from the environment. So people have not been able to freely touch these stones, according to what I read, for almost 50 years. I think in the mid-70s, they changed the rule.
You weren't allowed when I went there, and that's about 50 years ago now. It was a while ago.
Yeah. So the irony of the environmental group saying, hey, don't worry, that shit we sprayed on the rocks, that'll wash off. That's not a big deal. You're protesting human destruction of the environment by spraying shit on a natural wonder of the world. Or, I mean, it's man-made in the sense that they were built, but still, I mean, these are natural wonders. These are ancient rocks.
One of the great accomplishments of humankind. That's not
interaction with the natural world, and then they're called out for harming nature. Don't worry, that shit'll wash off. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. These are the environmentalists. It's one thing to spray a painting. I mean, you shouldn't do that either. But a painting is, a man-made creation by a dead white person in most contexts. But this is, you're literally vandalizing a natural monument. And then saying it's no big deal, the paint will wash off.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that with paintings either.
It's
a question of what is your intention. If your intention is to persuade, which it should be, who are you persuading? Who do you think you're persuading? All you do is create enormous backlash against your cause and the people who represent it by doing this. Whether this is to Stonehenge, whether this is to a Monet, these things are the collective repository of human experience, human memory, and human achievement. You're fucking with one of the few things that most humans can agree on, that most humans take a certain pride in. The most racist fucking person in the world will never be like, fuck those pyramids.
Right. Exactly.
It's the one thing we all take pride in as our collective human legacy, particularly, as you point out, when you're talking about something like Stonehenge, which is not, Le Grand Jatte. It's not this modern painting by a dead white man, as some would have it. This is part of the collective inheritance of humankind, one of the oldest monuments on Earth. Who do you think you're persuading? Now, if this were going to effectively accomplish your political aims, we could have a conversation. But do you honestly believe that? And if you do, maybe politics isn't for you, because you're probably too fundamentally stupid to be contemplating matters like this if you think this is an effective tactic.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, I see some people in the chat. I don't mean natural monument in the fact that they naturally occurred in that shape. They were obviously assembled, but they're old stones. You're harming the environment. You're taking the fungus off of the
means it's not an oil painting.
Right, it's not a painting. Right, exactly. Right, it's not a painting in a museum. It's outside in nature, and you're going and you're defacing nature, basically, and then saying, it's no big deal. It'll undo itself. That's the argument that the anti-climate activists make. Hey, fossil fuels are there to be mined. Right.
The conclusion I've come to, I hate to take the side of Constantine Cuntrag, but his argument at the Oxford Union was absolutely correct. We're not going to conserve our way out of this. We just aren't. As soon as people face the deprivations involved in getting rid of fossil fuels, in all democracies, they will vote for whichever government wants to get rid of those conservation policies. So you're not solving it that way. And then, as Constantine pointed out there, when you're talking about developing countries that didn't get the chance to have the benefits of fossil fuels, you're not persuading them not to go through their economic evolution with the use of fossil fuels. So you're not going to accomplish it through conservation. So throw all your focus into innovation and technologies that remove carbon from the environment. Put all of the energy you're putting into recycling plastics all into that, because it's really your only hope for solving the problem. Conservation is just not a workable solution. It's not going to do it. At this point, I've given up on that. Like, I don't advocate for it, not because I don't believe in climate change, just because I think that's an enormous red herring. It's a waste of time. You're going down a blind alley.
In this time of war and genocide and famine, I mean, there's plenty of other things you should be protesting. Like, to be whining about the end of humanity in a moment like this seems kind of trivial to me.
Well, through that means. You want to talk about, in terms of conservation, like, yeah, we should ban the manufacture of plastics. Sure, because you're getting microplastics through the environment that's getting into our bodies, things like that. But the idea that you're going to eliminate fossil fuels, yeah, that's not going to happen.
You know, I saw on the CNN put out an article yesterday. A couple outlets are running with this. They're finding microplastics in human dicks now. And that's why some people's dicks don't work. They got microplastics buildups. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what that, CNN said that.
Well, because it started with Anderson.
Well, there you go. I mean, that gives you, yeah. I mean, that gives you a good excuse.
That was going to be their featured show on CNN Online before they canceled it. It's going to be Anderson's dick doesn't work.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a good excuse now. You take one of these environmentalists home and you get performance anxiety. Sorry, it's the microplastics.
It's the microplastics, right?
We have to fight the power.
You know what I've heard helps. Would you shave your pits, please?
Yeah. Yeah.
That might help with the microplastics.
Yes, that's good for microplastic. It's a good microplastic mitigation measure, indeed. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's go. We got, look at this, 752 in the YouTube chat. That's more like it. Thank you all for being here. 487 on the Rumble chat. We got to wake these Rumblers up. Hit that like button over there on Rumble. Thank you guys all very much for being here. Pat Donahue, the Boeing segment, thanks to the €5, my friend, got me thinking of Dave Rubin's moronic argument on Joe Rogan for not having building regulations. Just astoundingly dumb argument. Did he really
make that argument?
Oh, yeah, that's long ago. That's way long ago.
I never saw that.
That's an old one. That's from like probably 7-8 years ago. Yeah. And then Rogan says, no, you have to have building regulations because if you don't, the companies will just cut corners. That's an old one. Thank you, Pat.
I mean, honestly, okay, so I'm going to do a video essay on Star Wars, and it's going to be pretty meandering. But one thing I kind of want to get into, because you look at, there's this thing happening all across society where everyone's just incompetent, whether it's people making movies, whether it's people making airplanes. And I think it's
right down to the rank and file. I mean, it goes way beyond that. Everybody, everywhere you go is a nightmare. You can't leave the house without running into a nightmare.
It really is idiocracy. And I think really what this is there is a certain brain capacity that just doesn't develop if people are not put in real survival circumstances, and I think it compounds over generations. And this is central to the collapse of all empires and civilizations. I think, as trivial as it might sound, something people have talked about with the new Star Wars show is that they have a fat Jedi. I think the whole arguing that yes, you can be healthy at any size, only people who have never had to survive off land would ever even say something like that. You have to be so divorced from reality, from the hard realities that hard survival teaches, that you're able to indulge in that kind of just absolute fantasy of what reality is. You have to have not had to perform any survival tasks. And I think that's just I think it makes people stupid. I think, look, if you've ever been around a wild animal, you look in their eyes, man, there's an intelligence you just don't see in the eye of a domestic animal. For a while, there was a coyote in New York, and I was driving a carriage at the time. And the coyote was curious about the horses. So a lot of times the coyote would just pace right next to your carriage and just go with you. And you looked at that coyote, man. That coyote was present in a way that a dog is never present. Like that coyote, you felt like he's fucking there. Like he's right there.
Well, yeah, wild animals are not relaxed. They're always alert.
Even outdoor cats.
Like a lion.
They have
like
a presence that an indoor cat does not have.
Oh, sure. Well, like a male lion is relaxed. That's why lions are so cool, because they act like domesticated cats because they're top of the food chain. No one fucks with them. Like these other animals are out there. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You see a male lion out there just lounging around, rolling around in a meadow. They know no one's fucking with them. They got it made in the shade. Like they're chilling. That's what makes them so cool. And actually, lions are pretty friendly. It's very rare that a lion will just attack a human. Whereas like a tiger will, because a tiger is not a pack animal. They're always on the hunts. You know, there's an alertness, there's a presence there. But yeah, no, male lions, they don't hunt, they don't do shit. The wives bring them the antelope. They just sit and fucking chill. Yeah,
they watch TV.
Yeah.
Hey, get me a beer.
That would actually be a great cartoon sitcom, a pack of male lions that just hang around. It could be like Cheers, you know, only with lions. A cartoon lion show. That's what we should do.
Yeah,
we should raise money for that.
That's how you make money in this space.
Yeah,
you make some show about lions drinking beer.
About lions drinking beer, watching baseball. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yes, I think that's part of why we're falling apart. I think that's true of all civilizations over time. The longer you go, the more material prosperity you have, the more out of touch with the needs of survival you get, and it makes you stupid.
Yeah, I think that there's something to that. Sparky, thanks for the $10. Russell, the Stars and Bars is the Confederate national flag, not the Confederate battle flag. I thought it was the Confederate battle flag, too. That's what I always thought it was. It's common mistake perpetrated by Ron Burgundy-type anchorman. The flags look way different. Yeah, the Confederate battle flag is a pair of white underwear. Oh, burn. The Confederate battle flag was usually called the rebel flag when I was growing up. It was co-opted by the counterculture from the mid-'60s through the mid-'80s. The flag nickname thing may seem like an insignificant historical revisionism. Not insignificant at all, Sparky. We just made $30 off of it. But it's a slippery slope which could snowball into a Gaza-like genocide. Thank you, Sparky.
I knew somebody who she actually, she started like a TikTok New York tour. She was a New York tour guide who went into TikTok. She won a consultancy with a social media firm, advising you on how to build a social media presence. And one of the things they told her was getting things wrong sometimes to spur engagement is a good idea for building your presence. Like throw in one wrong fact because it gets people to engage.
Right. Right.
And she said that actually worked. Like she said something wrong in a video and she got like a 10,000 sub bounce off it.
Oh, because it generates the engagement. Yeah, I mean that makes sense.
Exactly.
Makes sense to me. Fun fact says Sparky.
So that's what we were doing, Sparky.
Yeah, exactly. It was a trick.
Thanks. $35. It worked.
No, but it's funny because I saw your super chat during the countdown, and so I Googled it, and the same thing, the Stars and Bars come up. So that must be a common misconception. Fun fact, the Secretary of State of the Confederate States of America, Judah Benjamin, was Jewish.
Yeah, I knew that. That I knew. And some of the slave owners were Jewish. I actually knew a black Jew in college who was not related to Sammy Davis Jr. She actually was descended from slaves that had been owned by Jewish slave owners in the South, and they converted their slaves to Judaism.
Interesting.
Now that does not mean, like one disturbed individual said in the comments, that most of the slave owners were Jewish. Right. But there indeed were Jews in the Confederacy.
Wonder what Spinal Tap thinks of the Stonehenge vandalism. Yes, the 10-inch Spinal Tap. What was the?
I swear to God, 2 seconds before we were going on air, I was like, damn it, if I had had more time, I would have clipped the Stonehenge scene from Spinal Tap.
Yeah, that was a funny one. All right, let's move on here. We got some Rumble rants to get to as well. We will get to all Super Chats and Rumble rants as the show progresses. We do have Jake's app working today, so send in if you got them. Your support is much appreciated. All right, let's take a look at this piece of video here. The Lever tweets out, Trump winning would strengthen the elites who control the Dem Party. This is David Sirota making the case that the best way to endanger the political prospects of the Democratic establishment is to not vote for Joe Biden, since he doesn't explicitly say that, but vote against Donald Trump. I wonder what that could possibly mean. Right, so let's take a look at David Sirota's video here.
First and foremost thought on Donald Trump. If he becomes president, it's not only bad for stuff like climate policy, it's not only bad for stuff like corporate regulation, the economy, et cetera, et cetera. Donald Trump winning, in my view, would significantly strengthen the corporate-aligned politicians, media outlets, and consultants that currently control the Democratic Party.
Oh, my
The
God.
same class of people who obstruct progress on everything. It would so significantly strengthen the
I don't need
Democratic
this. I don't need this
Party
working class hero
Donald
crap.
Trump winning, that it's not actually insane to believe that that Democratic Party leadership in some ways wants Donald Trump to win, or at least would be absolutely fine with Donald Trump winning. So you're probably wondering, well, wait a minute, how does Donald Trump winning strengthen the corporate masters of the Democratic Party?
No, I'm not wondering that. I'm not wondering that. Didn't we have this conversation like 8 years ago, and then again 4 years ago? We all understand what you're going to say, which is that Trump emboldens the Democratic establishment because they fundraise against Trump. Yes, we all know that. You know what also emboldens the Democratic establishment? Electing it fucking president. That's what also emboldens the Democratic establishment. It's almost like the Democratic establishment is not influenced by Democratic input. Win or lose, the corporate bosses rule the party because that is fundamentally what the party is. It is a corporate structure. And so the idea that you're going to teach Democrats a lesson by voting against them and therefore the progressives are going to take over, yeah, that's not true. That's not true. We've known this for 8 years that that's not true. Now, if you wanted to make an argument that the only way to really radicalize people against the Democratic Party is to prove how destructive they would be with power, that's an argument I could buy. That's why I said in 2020, actually more people are going to be radicalized against the Democratic Party if Biden wins than if Trump wins. Take right now for an example. If Trump were overseeing this genocide in Gaza, the abandoned Biden voters in Michigan would be organizing for the Democratic nominee now. Whatever corporate piece of shit it was, Newsom, Whitmer, whoever, they would be organizing for the Democrats because, oh my God, Trump is funding a genocide. We have to get him out. The fact that Biden's overseeing the genocide means that now they're boycotting Biden. So yes, having a failed Democratic president in power does radicalize people against the Democratic Party. But guess what? We're doing that right now. That's happening right now. So the next step past that is to withdraw support from the Democratic Party, to boycott the Democratic Party. If you're just going to go vote for them again after you radicalize people against them, what's the point of that? There is no point of that. The only point of that is to rationalize a vote for a pro-genocide party, which is really what David Sirota is trying to do here. And this is what we're going to see now. You're going to have to rationalize in your head some excuse for rubber stamping a genocide by voting for the quote-unquote lesser evil, which is a ridiculous formulation now on its face.
Every election, it's the same shit. This is no time for talk about radical solutions. This is a 4-alarm emergency. It's a 5-alarm emergency. We need all hands on deck. We can disagree later. Okay, you know who they said that about? Mitt Romney.
Right.
Mitt Romney. It's not even about Donald Trump. If you go back in happier times, before the actors that he abused came out and told their tales, Joss Whedon did a video about the apocalyptic hellscape that would arrive if Mitt Romney were elected president. Started talking about how he needed to learn parkour. And obviously he was being funny, but but also being serious that it was going to be, oh my God, if Mitt Romney wins, how would Mitt Romney have been radically different from what Obama did in his second term? What did Obama do in his second term that was radically different from what Mitt Romney would have done? They do this every election. Trump is a unique threat on Twitter.
Right. Yeah.
In terms of his policies, he gave tax cuts to rich people. Every fucking Republican is going to do that. Democrats find other ways to pay off their hedge fund buddies and their Wall Street donors, just usually through inertia and inaction and blaming Republicans for the fact that they didn't do anything to rein these people in. But every election they play the same game because they have to. Like, what else? What other reason do they have to present for you actually going out and voting for these psychopaths?
Right.
Because it would reimpose the rhetorical parameter.
Oh, I got to back it up a few seconds here just to.
So you're probably wondering, well, wait a minute. How does Donald Trump winning strengthen the corporate masters of the Democratic Party? Because it would reimpose the rhetorical parameters that those Democratic Party bosses want. They want a discourse that is purely anti-Trump all the time, a discourse that exclusively focuses on Trump's outbursts and insanity and crimes, a discourse that marginalizes all other topics as some sort of distraction from the central cause of opposing Donald Trump.
Jane, you ignorant slut. Yeah. What have we had these past 4 years but that? That's exactly what we've had these past 4 years.
That's what I was thinking. That's exactly what we have.
How have you expanded the Overton window under Joe Biden? Under Joe Biden, you couldn't even pass paid family leave through the Senate. Under Joe Biden, we, and by we I mean Jews, literally we, cannot protest a genocide without being called anti-Semites. So what rhetorical space has been opened up for us under Joe Biden? None. None at all. The parameters are the exact same. It's all blue team good, red team bad. Trump is the main threat. As Russell said, if Trump was not the main threat, it would have been Mitt Romney. Greenwald tweeted out a headline from 2012, just last week. This is the most important election of our lifetime. Obama versus Romney. So they're always going to do this. That's the two-party game. That's the two-party game. They will always do that. The idea that we have more space to talk about bigger issues. We have more space to talk about bigger issues with Trump out of the picture is nonsense. Trump was not in the conversation in 2021, and you couldn't get paid family leave through the Senate. Biden did not even take a meeting with Joe Manchin to negotiate, to even try to twist his arm into signing something as simple as paid family leave into law. And you're going to act like we have some opportunity without Trump there that we wouldn't have with Trump there. It's just not true. Time has not borne that out. That would have been an interesting theory to float in 2018, 2019, but the results are in. And that's bullshit. And the reason that's bullshit is because of what I said before. The Democratic Party is not responsive to Democratic input at all. At all. It doesn't matter if they win or lose. You're correct in the sense that forcing them to lose is not going to teach them a lesson. Like, that's a ridiculous argument. So if on that score, that is technically correct, but that's an old argument. We learned that lesson 8 years ago. Literally 8 years ago. And you're still making this argument to who? To people who are still stuck in this. I'm sorry. This is a distinction that we tried to smooth over as best we could. I think we made a good faith effort. It's a PMC left argument.
Yeah, this is something I'm going to do more research on. I was watching a really interesting video that was actually about England, but it also had broader connotations. It was talking about it really got into the mechanisms by which neoliberalism has destroyed wealth, even as you have, this is the mystery, right? You have increasing productivity gains. You've never had technology helping productivity so much, and everyone keeps getting poorer while the rich keep getting richer. And essentially what this video was arguing is after the collapse of the colonial holdings and the empires and such, the direct control of these countries, all of these economies went to financialization and tax havens, where the wealth of these countries is extracted into these tax havens, where you're still getting the money, but it's through more clandestine means. Now all of this wealth is held within the banking system and within the investor class. And that is a big part of why democracies are no longer responsive, because the connection between consumer choice, between voting, and power and wealth has been completely severed. There's a completely invisible to the average person economy going on up here, and everybody else is down here. And they don't need you anymore. Right. They don't really need you interacting with the money supply and the economy in the way that they used to. So that's why the Democrats are not responsive to Democratic input. It's why Hollywood is not responsive to ratings. It's all, they're all in a completely hermetically sealed world of wealth accumulation amongst themselves that has very little to do with what's happening with people. That's why you had a runaway stock market in the middle of a fucking pandemic where everyone was home, because those two things are not connected anymore.
Yeah, and that is actually part of the appeal of Trump. That's what Anish Shivani picked up on very early on, that there's an analog quality to how Trump made his money. He builds hotels, he charges people to stay in his hotels, right? Selling products to people, moving product, right? That exists on that lower economic, in that lower economic world, right? Makes a lot of money in that lower economic world, but it's there. It's on the level of schmata, right? I'm hawking product, right? Here we go.
They want a discourse that casts all pressure on the Democratic Party, not just as a distraction, but as traitorous allyship with Donald Trump. That's what the Democratic Party leadership wants. A Trump victory in November gives the current Democratic Party leadership exactly those rhetorical conditions which allow them to further suppress all pressure on the Democratic Party itself. So if you want to help the corporate center of the Democratic Party, the corrupt, corporate aligned leaders of the current Democratic Party, if you want to help them, it seems to me your choice in this election is very clear. Vote for Donald Trump.
What rhetorical pressure have you successfully applied to the Democratic Party under Joe Biden? Like I said, you can't even protest a genocide without being called an anti-Semite. You can't even get paid family leave through the House. You let the Senate parliamentarian block a minimum wage bill. What are you talking about? If you're going to make this argument, you have to be able to point to something that you have accomplished over these past 4 years that would give some legitimacy to your argument that, see, with Trump out of the way, there are expanded opportunities. But you can make no such argument. And so Jimmy Dore, our friend who brought this to our focus yesterday, actually, he did it. He found a way to spin voting for Biden as a way of fighting the corporate corruption of the Democratic Party. Hey, you want to fight against corporate corruption of the Democrats? Then vote for Biden. Yes, the only way to fight the corrupt corporate-aligned leaders of the Democratic Party is to vote for them. Absolute genius. The key here is that he says this with a super serious look on his face. Even I have to tip my hat to this kind of next-level mindfuckery and gaslighting. Now, he did a segment on this last night, and I want to play a piece of this because this is a good point as well.
The way you hurt the Democratic Party is making them lose and then stop donating to them and stop making them a viable party. The way you keep corporations donating to the Democratic Party and owning our politicians in the Democratic Party is by letting people know you're willing to keep voting for them. That's the only thing that keeps their power going, is that they know people will keep voting for them. If the corporations thought Democrats would never get elected again, they would also stop donating to them and they would move on to who they thought would be getting elected. So this is his prescription.
So that is a very important point. Okay, that is a very important point because the power base of the Democratic Party are the corporations. It's the corporate money. The votes are the votes from people like us are what signal to the corporations that bribing Democrats is a good investment. So if we withdraw support from the Democrats, that hurts the Democrats because it signals to corporations not to bribe Democrats anymore because it doesn't do you any good to bribe a loser. Case in point, Disney started donating to Don't Say Gay Republicans again in Florida. Why'd they do that? They're doing that now because Florida is no longer a swing state. It's now a red state. So there's no point giving money to Democrats in Florida anymore because Democrats don't have power in Florida anymore. So if they want to curry favor with the government, they have to curry favor with the Republicans. So that's how you get corporate money out of the Democratic Party, by withdrawing support so that the Democratic Party is no longer a good investment for corporations. So that was a very good point. And that is one more example of how the actual constituency that matters to Democrats is not the people. It's the corporate donors. And you have to create a crisis of confidence within the party for the corporate donors so that they don't invest in Democrats anymore. That's how you hurt the corporate bosses of the Democratic Party, not by rubber stamping their genocide.
You have to undo the last several decades of Democratic politics. You have to rebuild unions, which were at one time the backbone of the Democratic Party, and allow them to take over the Democrats. If you look at how union bosses and Teamster bosses spoke in the 60s, they sound like fucking Marxists. The core assumptions of the working class, the redistributive assumptions, the belief in what the responsibilities of government were extremely radical by our standards. It really shows you when you go back and you look at these guys who were dismissed by the new left as Archie Bunkers and retrograde and regressive and reactionary. They were far, far more radical than anything you would hear from certainly a Bernie Sanders, the furthest left outposts of the Democratic Party today. And that's because the Democratic Party's base was a worker base. Right. You have to get back to that. You have to basically undo the Clinton revolution. Or really, I don't think it's possible. I think you just have to get rid of that party and build a new one based on those premises. I think the Democratic Party is beyond saving. With the Wall Street money, it's gotten so woven into it. It's like trying to get bubble gum out of hair. There's just nothing you can do with it at this point.
Yes.
And on Sirota, we all talked about this a little bit. God, what would it do to how we look at a lot of our most legendary journalists if they had to do hot takes? Right, Sirota is a fine journalist. Some of the best reporting. His thing is the lever, right?
Yeah, so they did great stuff with East Palestine, on the Baltimore Bridge collapse. Like, their investigative
on Boeing,
stuff is very good.
On
on
Boeing,
too.
Some of the best articles about Boeing are the lever. Yeah. Unfortunately, cable news set a new standard of the journalist pundit, where part of being a journalist is giving takes, whether it's through your own outlet or accepting invitations to round tables. You're expected to give takes as journalists now. And as we have discovered from people like Jordan Sheridan, from people like David Sirota, from people like Ryan Grimm, a lot of these people are much better journalists than political thinkers. It has not been to the benefit of their reputations to feel the need to give takes. Now, in all the cases I just mentioned, except for Grimm works for The Intercept, but the others are independent. Shut the fuck up. Do journalism. Nobody has anything to say about your journalism. Just do journalism. Stop giving your opinions. You're not good at it. That's ego. You don't even have to do it. Stop doing it.
Yeah, you don't even have to do it. Exactly.
You're not working for some network that tells you have to take this guest appearance. Just don't do this anymore. Don't talk about these things. You're stupid. You're stupid. I know it hurts your ego because you're actually a very good journalist. But on this level, you're clearly a moron, or somebody's paying you to say these things. Now, if no one's paying you to say these things and you care about your journalism, do you want to give the impression that you're corrupted by money and influence? Because that's the impression you're giving. That's all you're accomplishing by saying something like this. So stop. Just stop.
Yeah. Yep. Pretty simple. Raven Laz, thanks for the Rumble rant. This was suggested by Nima from Dialogue Works, who'd be a great guest. But what do you guys think about BRICS admitting Palestine as a member?
That would be an epic troll.
Yeah, that would be great, obviously. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty predictable answer from us. What are we going to say? No. Yeah, no, of course. JSO let loose with the graffiti-style extinguisher. FYI, you need latex paint and probably should have used a bunch of shoe polish and brake fluid to permanently anger the gods. Stick to interstates. Thank you, Stoop Sign. Let's see here. JSO dumped coal at the BlackRock headquarters in New York City. Sometimes they target the right things. They want to bomb pipelines like Biden claiming enough sabotage will force change. This BS pure spectacle.
You know, I meant to make that point. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, nobody complains when you go fuck with a Goldman Sachs headquarters. Go do that.
Right. Yeah. Go spray paint
that.
there.
Leave our collective cultural legacy alone. You're not winning any friends with that, geniuses.
Yeah. I heard Anderson Cooper's dick is 18% dildo now. Yes, it's microplastic. Thank you. I've known we're doomed, says His Highness, when it comes to climate change for a while. As such, I only do the things my government has forced me to do, like sort my garbage and use paper straws. Exactly.
I mean,
and paper bags.
Honestly,
don't forget paper bags.
In New York, you're supposed to. I stopped doing it. I stopped sorting out the recycling. It's pointless. Even if you believe in it, we know they don't actually do it. Like plastics,
they can find you, though. They can find your building. You got to be careful with that shit. I mean, it's hard for them to pin it on you. What are they going to do?
Yeah, you'll never take me alive, coppers.
You'll never take me alive. It's hard for them to pin it on you, yeah. Gina and Heidi, thanks for the $20. That's nice of you. Glad to see some Napolitano fans here. You should get him as a guest. Yeah, absolutely. I would love to have him on as a guest for sure. All right. When I look at your political shit show, I have to ask, is it scripted? Thank you, Old Stoner. Appreciate that very much here. We'll go to Sparky. Lichen is the stuff that accumulates on your lawn furniture that's difficult to scrub off. Yeah, I guess that's why it works as a protective, agent to the rocks there. Israel destroyed many Gazan archaeological sites. Yes, of course. The same people attacking Stonehenge, thanks Sparky, probably endorsed blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline in forever wars. Well, that's the ultimate irony, too. And that's the irony of Sirota saying Trump would be he would be terrible for the environment. Of course. Not surprising. After all, Wile E. Coyote was a super genius. Thank you, Sparky. Appreciate that.
That's true. That's true.
Cool Blue. Thanks for the $4.99. My advice to one who listens to David Sirota, stop listening to anything that is spoken and anything that is written by David Sirota. Yeah. I mean, I think from a political commentary standpoint, as Russ said, that's correct. Like, they wrote that great piece on the Baltimore bridge collapse that, like, everybody used, because they were the only ones with it. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's value in that. I mean, I don't think there's value in that. There is value in that. So why not just do that,
Well, I keep saying I'm supposed to get together with Jordan, and my pitch is going to be exactly what I just said. Please, for the love of God, I would love to feature your work on water. Will you shut up about politics? Just shut up about it. Come on, man. Is it really like benefiting you to do that? I don't think you're gaining any subscribers. You're probably losing some. Like, why not just be the crusading journalist? That's all.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
exposing these water crises, that's political enough.
And it takes so much time. Like, I don't know how you have time to do both. Like, how do you even have time to do both well? It takes so much time. I mean, it takes way, way more time to, like, do an investigative expose on a paper plant in Michigan than it does for, like, us to, like, read a few articles and come up with something to say about it. I mean, that takes a decent amount of time, but we couldn't do this on top of going out to fucking Michigan and finding out what's going on at a Kalamazoo paper plant, or I mean, where do you find the time in the day for that?
It is fucking tragic, because I felt so bad, man. He did that whole thing. He started in Flint, he went to West Virginia, all these places, and I felt like, man, I mean, I would love to feature this, but you have made yourself the story. You've done exactly what an investigative journalist should never do. You made yourself the story to the point that we cannot have you on to talk about what you're doing without it being a referendum on you.
Right. Sparky, anti-Semitism may have been brought to the South by Yankee occupiers during Reconstruction. Thank you, Sparky. Landrew giving us a $100.
Oh, snap.
Let's get a cowbell for Landrew, and we should also get a cowbell for Sparky, since those are adding up today. There we go. Double cowbell for Landrew and Sparky. And let's give Landrew his drop. Let's see. I think Russell really did a good job organizing this soundboard. He seems to really know his way around. Here.
Didn't I give Star Trek its own? Oh, no, I didn't.
No, no. You should have.
I am Landrew. Landrew is dead.
I think Trump winning has a better chance of stopping the genocide. The Democrats will rally to end anything Trump wants. I'm not sure who I am writing in. Jimmy, Keaton, Russell, Max, or Katie. Writing Katie, you know, we could use a first woman president. I think white men have had our turn. So, you know, I'm with her. Go ahead. Katie Halper for the win.
Go ahead.
See what a liberal I am. But no, you're right. I mean, yes, there would be a lot more protesters in the streets if Trump were president, because it would have the added cultural cachet of being anti-Trump, right?
Right. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what will be very, very interesting with the Zionists, because Trump will continue or even exacerbate Biden's Zionist policies. What do the Zionist Democrats do? Do they just become Trumpists? What are they going to do? Do they all go full Rappaport? Rappaport says he might vote for Trump, right? What are they going to do?
Yeah, exactly. Right. And that is going to create quite the pickle. That will be quite the thing. Because you're seeing a lot of the more committed Zionist liberals saying, hey, you know, voting for Trump is on the table. That's what Rappaport said. Don't think he's alone. He's the only one who's bombastic enough to come out and scream it into a microphone. But, you know, for everyone who's willing to say it publicly, there's 100 people who think it in the privacy of their own mind, for sure.
If you really want to create chaos in Gotham, vote Trump.
We should debate Sirota on that. That'll be a fun debate. The ulterior motives for voting Trump. You know, Sirota versus Dobler. That would be fun. Folks, if you like what we do here, you can help us do more of it by becoming a patron, by becoming a member. That helps us out tremendously. You can go to patreon.com/DoDissidents and sign up today for as little as $5 a month. You get your name up in lights on the patron scroll. You also get access to our post-show Q&A call-in shows every week. And you get access to 2 supporter-exclusive live streams per month. We're doing one on Monday. That is going to be, what is Monday? Monday is the 24th. That's right. And then the next one will probably be that Sunday. But Monday, the 24th at 8 p.m., we will have an exclusive patron-only stream. You get call-in access to those as well. So those are really fun, interactive live streams exclusively for paid members across all of our member platforms, which include Patreon, Substack at dodissidents.substack.com, and our locals. That's dodissidents.locals.com. You guys are the backbone of the show. You make this project possible. And so thank you very much for your support. I believe just about everyone who's supposed to be on this scroll is there. We've had a couple people email. These are now automated. So if you're off of there, we just have to go in and add you manually, which we will have Jake do for the Sunday show. But we have not been getting many complaints about that. So I'm pretty sure we have automated this correctly. But if you did send us an email recently saying you need to be added, we will have you added manually for Sunday. We'll do the Skinhead Jake system override there. Back from the road. Sorry, go ahead.
So I threw in the link to the YouTube video I was referencing before. It's from a channel that does video essays called Moon about neoliberalism and the financialization of the economy. Also, people talking about Cthulhu. I have an article coming up, short, sweet one, that is written in the style of the Lovecraft mythos. So keep an eye out for that.
All right. Yes, we should be dropping that maybe even today, right? I mean, it's ready to go.
I think so. I'll take one more look at it. But
today or tomorrow. Beautiful. Back from the road. It's never time for the working class problems in a dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. Yes, just ask any politician. Yes, that is a very, very well put statement there, my friend. Thank you for that. Robot Leg, the best way to show the Democrats that you don't approve of them is to vote for them. That checks out. Yes, thank you, Robot Leg. Indeed. I meant the political shit show of the country, not your show. No, I understand what you meant. Yes. It's like the only one I watch like this now. No, yeah, I understood what you meant. No worries.
We got it.
Stoner. We got it. We got you. Vic B in Vermont. Sirota's bad take reminds me of people who talk about a protest vote. There's no such thing. There's only one way to interpret a vote, and that's in support of a candidate. Yes, I agree. I agree with that. Now, my position in 2020, and this is why I'm relieved that this fight is not a fight we're having on the left now. I think that's partly because this Israel-Gaza thing just made it just impossible for any serious person to even contemplate a vote for Joe Biden. But the reason I didn't engage in that fighting is I said in 2020, the silver lining of a Biden victory is that it will radicalize people against the Democratic Party more than a Trump victory would. It's not a reason to vote for him because, as you said, a vote for Biden is supporting Biden, and I couldn't do that. But you could say a silver lining of a Biden victory is that when something like this happens, people are going to realize that the Democrats are just as bad as the GOP, and it'll radicalize them.
We're already there, though. What he's talking
That's
about,
the thing,
we're already living
there.
in it.
We're already there. So it's not like we need that to happen again. If this isn't the thing, if this isn't the motivating event to get people out of the Democratic Party, what possibly could be? Exactly.
There are some people in the back who didn't see it yet.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
We need another 4 years.
Right. Like, what are you, crazy? Like, at this point, if this isn't it, what could be? Absolutely. Sirota and his ilk behave at times like they are in a group therapy session, and they expect everyone listening to join and be with them. No, yes, good.
Yes
well put, Cool Blue. Cool Blue also says, if remembering correctly, Sirota worked in the 2004 campaign of Montana Democrat Governor Brian Schweitzer. His wife, Emily, is a Democrat in the Colorado State House. Yes, his wife is a Democratic politician.
Right.
Yes. Indeed.
Look,
those are the circles in which you swim. He's in Hollywood now. He's writing screenplays.
Sure.
If you go too far, you don't get those opportunities anymore.
Well, and I also think a lot of it with these journalist commentators, it's ego. They think that because they do good journalism, they have good opinions. And as we have discovered, it's kind of surprising because back in the day when it was kind of understood that journalists should not offer political opinions before cable news changed that, you always thought they probably had really interesting opinions given the depth of their knowledge. And this generation of journalists is really proving that's not true. That if Cronkite had spoken his mind more, we probably wouldn't remember him so fondly.
That's true. I think that is true. Definitely. All right, folks, we are going to move on here. This is a story that has been brewing for well over a year now. We're talking about the civil war in Sudan. Fire used as a weapon of war in Sudan as entire towns and villages burned to the ground. NBC reports hundreds of towns and villages across Sudan have been burned to the ground, and the fires were likely man-made, satellite images and open-source reporting show. The result of a brutal civil war that has been raging in the Northeast African nation for over a year. Bitter fighting between the forces of two rival generals has laid waste to much of the country. Thousands have been slaughtered, and 10 million people have been driven from their homes, creating the world's largest displacement crisis, according to the United Nations Migration Agency. And as the fighting has spread, homes and aid camps have been burned out by fires that have been started intentionally, experts and analysts say. When we see reports of fighting coinciding with clusters of fires, it indicates that fire may be being used as a weapon of war, Mark Sneck, an open-source investigator, told NBC News on Monday. More than 50 settlements have burned repeatedly, suggesting intent and possible forced displacement, added Sneck, who, along with his colleagues, has been tracking the blazes by satellite at the Center for Information Resilience, abbreviated CIR, a nonprofit organization dedicated to exposing rights abuses and war crimes. Relying in part on heat-sensing satellites developed by NASA to monitor wildfires around the world, Sneck and the team of researchers from CIR's Sudan Witness Project have documented more than 235 fires that have broken out in towns and villages across the country since the start of the war in April 2023. Combining this with open-source reporting, cross-checking social media content, maps, and other publicly available data, They are able to determine the scope of the destruction across the country, which sits at the crossroads of sub-Saharan Africa and the Middle East, and is home to both African and Arab populations, with Arabic being the most widely spoken language. CIR found much of the violence was taking place in Darfur, Sudan's westernmost region. The latest data shows fire events moving closer and into El Fasher, the capital of Sudan's North Darfur state and home to 1.5 million people, including many who have fled from the other embattled parts of the country. It is also the last major city in Darfur where the military has a presence and has become the focal point of the latest fighting between the war's combatants. The region has become a flashpoint in the war that broke out in April 2023 between the Sudanese military, controlled by the country's top commander and de facto ruler, General Abdel Fattah Burhan, and his former deputy, General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, who's referred to as Hemeti, a former camel dealer widely known as Hemeti, who leads the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, commonly referred to, as the RSF. Both men were leaders in a counterinsurgency against an uprising in Sudan's Darfur region, a conflict that in 2005 saw dictator Omar al-Bashir become the world's first sitting leader to be indicted by the ICC on suspicion of genocide. Then they were part of the military establishment that helped oust al-Bashir in 2019 after widespread popular unrest. 2 years later, they agreed to rule together in an alliance that saw the military seize power in a coup following the collapse of the Western-backed government of Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok in 2021. But the alliance between the two military leaders spectacularly broke down over how to manage the transition to a civilian government, and with neither seemingly willing to cede power to the other, a war broke out. Since then, at least 15,000 people have been killed, according to a UN report in April, which said that around 18 million people are facing acute hunger. And so the United Nations put out a report yesterday, Nowhere is Safe for Civilians, as Sudan war descends further into chaos. The war that erupted last April between the SAF and the RSF has triggered political instability, a severe humanitarian emergency, and widespread human rights violations. Over 15,000 fatalities have been reported in some 1,400 violent incidents targeting civilians, and there are now almost 9.5 million forcibly displaced in Sudan, 7.3 million internally, and 1.9 million in neighboring countries. Furthermore, around 18 million people are acutely food insecure, and 5 million are facing starvation. Pregnant women are most at risk, and 7,000 new mothers could die in the next few months if they do not get access to food and health care. Ambassadors also heard an update from Idem Wasorno, the Director of Operations at the UN Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, who detailed the impact of the crisis on civilians and on relief efforts. Though there have been some improvements over the last few weeks in access, such as approvals of visas and travel permits by authorities, aid operations continue to face serious challenges, including attacks against personnel. 6 aid workers, all Sudanese nationals, have been killed over the last 6 weeks. This brings the total number of aid workers killed to 24 since the war started, Ms. Wasarnu said. In addition, the $2.7 billion UN-led humanitarian appeal is woefully underfunded, she added, noting that so far only $441 million, just 16%, has been received. We are in a race against time to avert massive loss of life in this unprecedented protection and food security crisis in Sudan. Every day that we wait for funding to come in, more lives are at risk, she warned. So here is a piece of a PBS segment. This was aired a couple of weeks ago from Sudan.
Do you think that the international community has let you down?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think so. I think that people eyes now on Ukraine and Gaza, but we got not a lot of help here in Sudan. Basically, people need food and medicine, basically. Okay?
Food and medicine, as simple as that?
As simple as that.
Because in war, you see the best as well as the worst of humankind. The best being people like Dr. Mohammed Banaga, who started a soup kitchen for displaced people, funded by local shops and friends in the Sudanese diaspora. And you stayed here throughout the war. Were you not afraid?
No, I'm not afraid. Afraid of what?
Afraid of being killed?
Man will kill, will die once, no? Not twice, once.
The United Nations tweets out, this was on the 18th, the people of Sudan are crying for help to restore their dignity and rights. Speaking at the Human Rights Council, the chair of the UN Independent International Fact-Finding Mission for the Sudan, Mohammed Chande Athman, called for the fighting to stop. Here's a piece of his address.
Sudan has been engulfed in a devastating conflict for over a year now, characterized largely by its urban, widespread nature and its civilian population placed at the center of extreme violence. Blatant disregard for fundamental human rights and international humanitarian law has led to killings, looting, mass displacement, rape and other forms of sexual violence, and resulted in a grave humanitarian crisis with around 18 million people acutely food insecure and 5 million facing starvation, according to the World Food Program.
Yeah, and as some people are saying here, the quiet part out loud, the RSF is supported by the UAE and the West. Yes, that's exactly right. Horrible crisis, obviously, where you have essentially a civil war between the top general and his second in command in a power struggle, the latest in a series of military coups that have basically defined the political history of Sudan for quite some time. They have had a long history of this. And part of it is because they are near, a resource-rich part of the world. And so it is somewhat of a proxy and a power struggle between other neighboring countries in the region, Iran and Egypt and the UAE in this case. But you see the devastating human toll that this has taken on people and the lack of aid getting in. And I do think that there should be actions to pressure the UN to get more aid into there, to make that at least try and lessen this just massive scale of human suffering. I mean, the numbers there are staggering. But before we go, we have a little more. But Russell, do you have anything to add for here?
Yeah, we are going to get into this, but sure, people like Douglas Murray, they want to bring up Sudan as a deflection from Gaza. One, we're not funding this in that way. Now, there may be a twisted web of involvement, but literally we cut off Israel tomorrow. Israel is not going to exist for very much longer. I mean, literally just completely cut them off militarily, financially. So we have a very obvious, very explainable, very comprehensible, and very direct complicity in what Israel does. Whereas this, what connection the West has to what's happening there is harder to explain to people. I mean, I'm explaining why it's harder to get people involved in this. Now, is there also, because it is the center of 3 major world religions, there's an interest in the region that Israel and Gaza are in that there is not with Sudan? Sure. You do not have a lot of Sudanese people with very strong feelings about this living in the West. There is no large contingent of Sudanese to draw attention to this in the Western world. So those are a few of the reasons. That having been said, yeah, it is a failing that we have not drawn more attention to this. So this segment is partly an attempt to correct that.
Yeah, because we got called out by this guy who really cares about Sudan a great deal.
Yeah, he gives a shit.
Douglas Murray. So this is a tweet from Cat Canada, who tweeted out a portion of the monk debate in which Douglas Murray says the only reason that kids are protesting Israel and not Sudan is, well, you take a guess.
If you didn't throng the streets of this city or any other for the actual genocide going on in Sudan, not the one that Mady and Gideon pretend is happening, but the actual genocide going on in Sudan, if you didn't spend weekend after weekend doing that, but you did come out for the post-October the 7th protests, you're an anti-Semite.
There's the explanation. Of course, as Russell said, Sudan is not our aircraft carrier. Okay, we are not involved in this to nearly the extent that we are in the Israeli genocide. And yes, there have been
we are
mass
not directly
atrocities.
funding and supplying one side. If we were doing that, yes, you would have massive protests. Now, look, we always want to keep it real. Would they be on the scale? I don't think so. For the reasons that I laid out. We do not have as many people from that part of the world woven into Western civilization, whereas our culture has much more focus on that part of the world than it does on Sudan. But would you have much more attention paid to it if the United States were directly funding it? Yeah, I believe so.
Also, this was a conflict that arose from a top general and his second in command. It's horrible. The human rights violations being committed by the RSF, which are backed by the UAE, yes, those are horrible. And those are genocidal in nature. I would not argue that. But this is a war. This is a conflict. Right. This is not an imprisoned population being shot like fish in a barrel. Occupied by our ally being shot like fish in a barrel with no semblance of a fight. That's another key difference. That's another key difference.
That's another thing. You have a civil war between different factions in a country that is not a client state of ours.
Right.
It's a completely different situation. That having been said, yes, a humanitarian crisis is a humanitarian crisis. And
of course, yes.
we do need to draw attention to it and try to help in any way that we can.
Yes, absolutely true. And I want to just, as a final piece on this, Caitlin Johnston, sure, I have comments about Sudan. I think it's very interesting that Empire simps want me to talk about Sudan instead of the crimes in Gaza that are being actively facilitated by the empire I live under. I think it's very revealing that these same Empire simps never want to talk about how the UAE, effectively a member state of their beloved empire, is backing the RSF in Sudan. And I think this "what about Sudan" shtick that Empire simps and Israel apologists have been doing sounds a whole lot like stop criticizing the crimes of the white people in the power structure you're part of. Criticize those brown people in Africa instead. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Listen, Caitlin, you can use all the Yiddish you want. They're still going to call you an anti-Semite.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Don't try
There's no escaping that shtick. She used that pretty well, though, because that is true. That is true. And so, yeah, I mean, of course, look, a humanitarian crisis is a humanitarian crisis. The people who are starving and being killed and being driven from their homes, obviously, that's the same all across the board. As for the weaponization of this issue by cynical scumbags like Douglas Murray, who I promise you could give a shit about Sudan any more than he cares.
Why doesn't he go to Sudan?
Right.
He cares so much about it. We could say the same thing about you. Why don't you go to Sudan?
Yeah, why don't you go to Sudan?
Are you anti-black?
Right.
I mean, he is, clearly.
Right, yeah. In his case, he is.
I can answer my own question.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The point could just be made exactly the same in the other direction. 677 in the Rumble Chat. Thank you all very much for being here this morning. We got some more super chats to get to here. So, Sparky, Russell, testing your New Orleans knowledge. ROC, if you're a real tour guide or just pretending to be to get chicks, why are Mardi Gras colors purple, green, and gold?
A Russian. Well, I've seen different things about that. It seems like the commonly accepted version is a Russian noble. I mean, it's true. A Russian noble visited New Orleans, and the crew of Rex adopted the noble's colors. But I've seen in other places it say that they don't know. But it seems like the most popular version is that they adopted. I don't remember the name of the noble, but the Russian noble's colors.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I never knew that. Russell, it's the falling rate of profit. Hey, Tusker. Thanks, Tusker. Higher productivity equals increased poverty.
What do you do? Aren't you at work? Are you supposed to be working?
Aren't you supposed to be fixing people's hearts or some shit?
Yeah, somebody dropped dead because you're watching this fucking show.
You're watching the show, yeah. Sirota is a con, says Cool Blue. Thank you. Sparky says it's a religion to Sirota and his ilk. They sound like they're trying to convince themselves lest they be struck by lightning. Thank you, Sparky. The failure of Dukakis in 1988 traumatized the Democrat Party to the point of selling their soul. I mean, what's his face?
McGovern.
Yeah, McGovern, too. Yeah. That was 16 years prior. Carrie Scott, you promised beatbox soundbite for my raps. More coming. Oh, yeah, we'll have to get that in there. Yeah, see, we need it as a sound drop because the microphone doesn't do that the right way.
It doesn't pick it up?
No. Doesn't pick it up. And water is more than just bipartisan. Thank you, Sparky. Hobbs is here. Hobbs, thanks for the $11. What if the Dems have a big scandal involving pizza? Oh, wait. Yes. Thank you, Hobbs. Missed yesterday's show live, so I had to catch up. Thank you, Sparky. Appreciate
you, Sparky.
Appreciate you very much. Thanks for being here. It's very kind of you to shower us with love. And by love, I mean money. Thank you very much. Keaton, loved the backdrop, so not 5th grade headshot. Yes, thank you. Got the new backdrop. Thank you very much.
Next, we're going to have our logo redesigned, and then we're going to get some matching neon signs.
Yes, matching neon signs. When Mitt Romney travels with his family, he ties the dog to the top of the airplane. The dog still feels safer on the Airbus. Yes. Yes. That's right. Yeah, they fly private, so they could do that. They could tie the dog to the top of the airplane. Let's go here. Some chatter here, says Judy Denmark, about Jimmy Dore starting to lose the plot. Just want everybody to remember the man has been heroically on the side of right and had a huge impact. Well, you look at a guy like Sirota, who has Hollywood screenplays, that he's co-written and Oscar nominations. Jimmy lives in L.A., lives in Hollywood. If Jimmy took that tack of hey, vote against Trump to hurt the Democrats, if he were to do some shit like that, there'd be dozens of opportunities for him tomorrow that don't exist right now.
Yes.
So, the fact that he doesn't go there, yeah, exactly, ought to show you that he means what he says.
Yeah, the fact that he shows up to a hot former train station in the fucking Bronx.
Right.
To promote a 25-year-old activist trying to take down Richie Torres. Show me who else is doing that. I want to know. Tell me.
Imagine we had Brianna Joy Gray booked for that. That would have been embarrassing.
Yeah. She no, she was supposed to be there. She lost track of time.
Yeah, right, exactly. That would have been
that
would have been a big problem. That would have been a huge problem. That would have been a pickle. Trump may be Israel's only chance to stop its self-destruction. Yeah, I don't buy that, Sparky. I'm sorry. I don't buy that. And as I said this a couple of shows ago, he's gotten much worse in his posturing on the issue. Right after October 7th, he was basically saying it's Netanyahu's fault because he had a personal falling out with Netanyahu over 2020. And so he was making gestures. It never looked like he was a man of peace, but it started to look like this guy's personal animus against Netanyahu might be useful in bringing about peace sooner than later. But, as he gets closer to the presidency, he's starting to realize, just like he did in 2016, hey, the realer this gets, the more I have to bend the knee. Because recently, his rhetoric on this has been as hawkish as anybody, if not worse. Yeah. So I don't really have much hope for that, unfortunately. James Van Der Zanden, vote for blank and we'll push the party left later. Yeah, exactly. That's always the line.
Every time. Gulnara
Marchesi, thanks for the $10.
Remember, they were going to put Biden's feet to the fire.
Oh, yeah. They're going to hold his feet to the fire. Right.
Just as soon as they finish up with the mimosas at brunch, they're going to get out the kerosene, light that fire. Still waiting.
Right. Unfortunately, I live in a house, and our council made clear plastic bags, so they won't take our garbage if I don't sort. But I do put things that shouldn't go in the garbage into sorry, you got cut off there. You ran into the character limit, into the chip bags and such. Got it. Yeah, there you go. Now, I used to do that too. I used to like hide like garbage or I forget what I used to do, but I used to try and figure out some way around the rules if I got things mixed up, because it's a pain in the ass. Like, they keep 2 bins in the house. What if you don't have a lot of space? This is what I mean. It's anti-worker. It's anti-poor, you know, and that sounds like a trivial thing to say. I was in Russell's apartment for the first time a few weeks ago. You don't have room for 2 bins in that kitchen. That kitchen's fucking tiny.
I don't have room for 1 bin.
Right, you don't even have room for 1 bin.
I hang a plastic bag on the stove knobs. I'm
Say,
serious. That's
I
what
throw
I
my
do.
garbage out the window.
Yeah. I throw it down the air shaft.
Yeah, throw it down the air shaft.
It's a horrific stench. Nobody knows why.
I flush it down the toilet. Yeah.
I leave it in front of the neighbor's door. Just make sure there's nothing with my name on it in there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, who has the space for that? Who has the space for 2 bins? You know? New Orleans welcomed the Romanovs in the early 1800s, so repurposed the decorations for Mardi Gras. Purple, gold, and green were Romanovs' colors, so the choice of colors was purely practical. Beautiful. Thank you for that. Colin Radix Carter. Hey, Colin. Long time no see. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Where's Ilhan Omar's advocacy for Sudan? Yeah, you're not really seeing much in the way of any kind of discussion about that. And as the man said in that video, he said Ukraine and Gaza have really taken the world's eyes off of this, for sure. Jenna Tills, outbreed the duopoly. Thank you, Jenna Tills. Well, I'm trying. I don't know what everybody else is doing. I'm doing it. What happened with U.S. forces after being expelled from Niger, settling in Côte d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast? Was your boy Macron pissed since they displaced his troops? That's right. Thank you, Sparky. If Zios, says Colin, thanks for the $9.99, really cared about what's happening in Sudan or Congo, put your money where your mouth is, start a protest or do a fundraiser. It's just a rhetorical talking point to deflect from Gaza. Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, we meant to do this, but there is a link where you can donate the crisis relief, the UNCrisisrelief.org /T/Sudan if you guys do want to chip in for that. Should have put that up in the clip. I'll put it in the description of the video, or maybe I'll put it as a title at the end.
Yeah, just throw it over the video.
Yeah, I'll just put a little yellow title at the bottom of the screen. All right, let's move on here. We got some more material to do today before we wrap. This is a quick one, but an important one, I think. It's a quick CNN report. Israel to strengthen Jewish settlements in the West Bank after countries recognize Palestinian states. Israel's government says it is looking to strengthen Jewish settlements in the occupied West Bank after several countries unilaterally recognized a Palestinian state. In a statement issued on Sunday, the Prime Minister's office said all of the proposals for strengthening settlements in what Israel biblically refers to as Judea and Samaria would be voted on at the next Security Cabinet meeting. Norway, Ireland, Spain, and Slovenia have each recognized an independent Palestinian state in recent weeks, a move motivated at least in part by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's open refusal to commit to a two-state solution. Israel's foreign ministry said the move was a reward for terrorism and would strengthen Hamas. The statement also said Israel would look at what actions to take against the Palestinian Authority as it took actions against Israel in international bodies. Earlier this month, the Palestinian Authority applied to join South Africa's case against Israel at the International Court of Justice. Israel's far-right finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, said in May that Israel should approve 10,000 settlements in the West Bank. 10,000 settlements in the West Bank, establish a new settlement for every country that recognizes a state of Palestine, and cancel travel permits for Palestinian Authority officials. It is unclear if any of these radical ideas are part of the proposals currently under consideration in Israel. Yeah, I'd say that's quite radical, and I'd say that demonstrates quite obviously,
I just want to,
they are resisting at least the acknowledgments, much less the fruition of a Palestinian state. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to point out that finance minister came up in our pink washing segment. He was caught on tape describing himself as a proud fascist homophobe.
Right.
That is the finance minister of gay paradise, we are told to
Right.
believe.
Yes.
Israel.
Yes.
Proud fascist homophobe, and also a democracy. Described himself as a fascist. That piece of work also stated that the Gazans should be moved out of Gaza so that they can go in and make the desert bloom. He said 2 million is too many. If you reduce it to 100, 200,000, it's much more manageable.
Yep.
Sounds like a Nazi, right? I mean, that's like Nazi logic, final solution.
Yes.
Kind of stuff.
That is absolutely that kind of rhetoric. And, at the end of this article, it says here, it's unclear if any of these radical ideas are part of the proposals currently under consideration in Israel. What this proved, this is an extension of Israel's refusal to cooperate with any actual momentum towards a Palestinian state, for all of the fake outs that they've done over the years, for all of the gestures that they've made that look like, hey, maybe we'll start to give in this way. No, now they're talking about strengthening and expanding settlements, the approval of 10,000 new settlements in the West Bank, and a settlement for every country that recognizes a state of Palestine. If that is not...
retaliate. Yeah.
Yes, if that is not an explicit act of retaliation, an explicit, oh yeah, fuck me, no fuck you, I don't know what is. And so, that just really demonstrates who they are.
Yeah, it's a criminal regime. It's a rogue state. If any country we were not using to stick our military bases in were to behave this way, oh my God, this is the worst leader since Genghis Khan. It's Attila the Hun. It's Hitler. It's Stalin, all wrapped up in one. They do it. Not a word.
Yes, that's right. All right. Like I said, that was a quick one, but noteworthy. It would help if the media reported more on Sudan. Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Well, they did the same thing with Yemen. There was very little reporting on Yemen, and there was very little, hey, I mean, we got to own that, man. Left didn't say much about it.
And that was really worse because Saudi Arabia is an ally and partner.
Is an ally. So hey, you can't avoid these things. The left failed. We had a show while the Yemen thing was going on. We didn't talk about it.
We didn't talk about this issue as much as we should have. We didn't talk. No. We did not talk about Israel as much. We talked about it a little bit,
very little,
but not as much.
Very little.
Yeah, not as much as we should have. No, absolutely. Let's see here. Robot leg. Trump's Israel stance has been disappointing. That Adelson money is real. So sad. Yeah, I mean, he's also just a lazy scumbag who's going to take the path of least resistance on these things.
This is what I said when I went to his rally. Not that it was a revelation. He's a fucking clown. He's a clown. He's up there just lying and making shit up. It's just that people hate the establishment so much at this point. They hate the political class so much that his whole Rodney Dangerfield routine plays as an act of rebellion, indulging in it, appreciating it, plays as an act of rebellion. Yeah, I had a clogged toilet, so I went. I said, hey, why is this toilet clogged? Just because he doesn't sound like a politician. That's all it is, really.
Right. Yep. No, that's absolutely it. Sparky, remember all those Toyota trucks in Chad set up with machine guns like Rat Patrol Jeeps supplied the West might have something to do with Sudan's plight. Thank you, Sparky. Perry Anderson, thanks for the history bit yesterday, Russell. Yes, that was very good. People like that. The reviews on that are fantastic. People are saying wonderful things about that.
Everyone's talking about it.
Everybody's talking about it.
Especially the crackers who come into the comment section to talk about how the South freed the slaves first.
Yeah. No one's ever heard anything like that. No one's ever seen anything like that.
Yeah, like you always know when you do a segment like that like the sickest fucks are going to comment on that video. Not exclusively.
Right.
You think the government's telling you the truth about the Civil War? You just get these lunatics, man.
Born and raised in South Louisiana. Never heard the background about the colors. Thumbs up. Well, thank you.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, yes, like that is the commonly agreed upon version, but I've seen other sources that say nobody knows. So I'm not sure which is correct. I'm not sure if it's one of those legends, because that very often happens. I can tell you as a tour guide, there are stories that tour guides tell that are not true or not established fact unintentionally, because you'll have sources that will state it as fact, and then you'll find out later it's not true, or it's not the whole truth, or it's a distortion, or it's just a popular story that caught on.
Right.
For example, good example, this is just American history, not New York history, Paul Revere. If you ask people who alerted the Americans that the British were coming, they're going to say Paul Revere. It wasn't Paul Revere. Paul Revere rode 15 miles. A guy named Isaac Bissell rode 400 miles down the northeast coast, alerting all of the Americans. But Paul Revere was well connected, and hey, try making a poem out of Isaac Bissell, right? So everyone remembers Paul Revere.
Clout chasing bastard. Don't change colors to Crystal, Kyle, and friends. Thank you, Cool Blue. Appreciate that. Let's go to our fifth segment on the day here. All right, folks, this is kind of a feel-good story. This will lift your spirits. ADL faces Wikipedia ban over reliability concerns on Israel and anti-Semitism. This reported by Haaretz. ADL no longer appears to adhere to a serious, mainstream, and intellectually cogent definition of anti-Semitism.
Oh, you think?
Wrote an editor whose request for a discussion about the ADL ultimately led to the ban. So Wikipedia's editors have voted to declare the Anti-Defamation League generally unreliable on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, adding it to a list of banned and partially banned sources. An overwhelming majority of editors involved in the debate about the ADL also voted to deem the organization unreliable on the topic of anti-Semitism, its core focus. A formal declaration on that count is expected next. The decision about Israel-related citations made last week means that one of the most prominent and long-standing Jewish advocacy groups in the United States, and one historically seen as the leading U.S. authority on anti-Semitism, is now grouped together with, I love this list here, National Enquirer, Newsmax, and Occupy Democrats as a source of propaganda or misinformation in the eyes of the online encyclopedia. Moreover, in a near consensus, dozens of Wikipedia editors involved in the discussion said they believe the ADL should not be cited for factual information on anti-Semitism as well, because it acts primarily as a pro-Israel organization and tends to label legitimate criticism of Israel as anti-Semitism. Too bad they couldn't have moderated that debate the other day. ADL no longer appears to adhere to a serious, mainstream, and intellectually cogent definition of anti-Semitism, but has instead given in to the shameless politicization of the very subject that it was originally esteemed for being reliable on, wrote an editor known as...
And whether it ever deserved that esteem is an open question as well.
Sure, of course.
They always tended to traffic in that, but post-October 7th, they literally, as they mentioned, changed their standards. So it's just not tenable to use them as a source.
Exactly. Wrote an editor known as Elskandar323, whose request for a discussion about the ADL ultimately led to the ban. In a written statement, the ADL said the decision by Wikipedia was the result of a campaign to delegitimize the ADL, and that editors opposing the ban provided point-by-point refutations grounded in factual citations to every claim made, but apparently facts no longer matter. Yeah. Wikipedia's volunteer editors have debated the reliability of the ADL for years as the group has come under criticism off of the platform from both the left and the right, but concerns coalesced into a new discussion about banning the group as a source in April, which was followed by months of discussion featuring hundreds of comments from dozens of editors. A relatively small minority of editors sought to defend the ADL, arguing that the organization's statistics and analysis are widely cited, by many news outlets that are themselves trusted by Wikipedia. The defender said critics of the group managed to show that the ADL may be biased or partisan, but not that it publishes false information.
All right, so this is a really common tactic, to refer back to a biased source as proof that your source is not biased.
Right.
Oh, really? They use ADL. And for example, the Atlantic article that we ripped apart about the passing of the golden age of Judaism literally said the ADL has recorded, I can't remember what the percentage was, 50% increase of anti-Semitic incidents, and then mentions as an aside, and although the ADL has changed its definition of anti-Semitism to include anti-Zionism,
right?
Oh, that's small matter.
Right.
So is that the source that you still use, the Atlantic, that you're referring to as evidence that the ADL is still reliable? I'm sure that's what that is. Oh, what? Morning Joe?
Right.
Morning Joe finds them reliable. MSNBC, NBC.
Right. Exactly. It becomes this like circular thing. We can't call them unreliable because NBC is reliable and they cite the ADL.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, that's NBC's problem, not yours. Right. Editors supporting the ban focused on the ADL's conduct following October 7th, Israel's subsequent war with Hamas, and the wave of pro-Palestinian demonstrations on college campuses. Many editors said that the organization had undermined its credibility by altering how it categorizes anti-Semitic incidents. Its new methodology included many pro-Palestinian protests in its annual audit of anti-Semitism, which reported a large spike over the previous year. Also cited were a series of controversial statements by ADL CEO Jonathan Greenblatt, who has claimed student protests were Iranian proxies, compared the keffiyeh headscarf to the swastika, praised Elon Musk after he promoted an anti-Semitic post on his social media platform X, and compared anti-Zionism to white supremacy. Editors pointed to news reporting about a staff revolt in January against Greenblatt's statements. The two sides lingered on a controversial definition of anti-Semitism that the ADL embraces. Authored by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, the IHRA, as it's called, definition has been endorsed by hundreds of universities, companies, and local governments, as well as the U.S. House of Representatives. But the definition has also proven contentious with critics who say the definition is too broad and could be used to stifle pro-Palestinian speech. Many of the critiques from the Wikipedia editors are things people on the left have been saying for years, according to Dov Waxman, director for the Center for Israel Studies at the University of California, Los Angeles. On the left, the ADL is often dismissed and regarded as a bad actor or propaganda outfit, Waxman said. But if that starts to move beyond just the left and Wikipedia and other sources, and the journalists start ignoring ADL's data, it becomes a real issue for Jewish Americans who are understandably concerned about the rise of anti-Semitism. By deeming the ADL generally unreliable, Wikipedia is telling users that the source should normally not be used and should never be used for information about a living person. Wikipedia is not poised to ban the ADL outright. Enough editors have argued that some aspects of the ADL's work, such as its database of hate symbols, should still be considered an acceptable source. Myra Sukharov, a professor of political science at Carleton University, said Wikipedia's decision represents a major opportunity to reflect on why the ADL is facing scrutiny and rethink communal approaches for fighting anti-Semitism. This is a sign that the Jewish community needs better institutions, he said. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. But that is a good sign. That's some good news there. That they're being called out by a source as authoritative as Wikipedia, which we use for all our segments. We frequent that website.
What is Destiny going to do now?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. He's going to need his whole library, right? All those folders of printed Wikipedia articles. He's going to have to repurpose them somehow.
They're all moot now.
Yeah.
Well, this is as dark as things might seem and as impossible as things might seem right now. And certainly, I'm not saying it's worth the suffering or the lives that this is costing, but I do believe it's the end of Israel as we've known it. I've been saying that throughout all of this. More and more, the institutions that Israel relies upon to push its Hasbara are collapsing and losing credibility in the eyes of the public. And again, at the end of this, however it ends up, you're going to see more and more countries refusing to maintain diplomatic relations with Israel, more countries refusing to trade with Israel. Forget about tourism as a source of income other than from the most devout Zionist Jews and Zionist Christians. They're never going to recover from this if they're able to survive it at all.
Yeah, no, and this is just one more thing. You know, who'd have thought that we would see the day where this kind of action is taken against the ADL? Now, you could say, well, it's an online encyclopedia. Is this really a major thing? Well, it's more significant than I thought I would see. If you asked me, would the ADL ever be discredited in this way, the way it deserved to be a long time ago? I agree with Russell on that. I would have said no, right? But good on them for doing that. It is an important thing to point out. Because that's what undergirds the entire debate. That's why that monk debate went as viral as it did. Because the undercurrent of this entire debate is, are we allowed to have this debate, or does that make us bigots for even having the debate at all? Right? And the ADL is, public enemy number one in terms of perpetrating that obscene lie that poisons the entire conversation. That to even question Israel or Israel's policies is to engage in anti-Semitism.
Yes. And in the end, things are changing. I do believe people like that fucking whore Dana Bash and Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the segment that they did the other day, I think they are going to have to answer for that. Social narratives can change. Society can change. Perspectives can change. I do believe a lot of these people are not going to be able to function in their positions once that narrative does change. And I think when you see things like this, you're seeing that future coming into being.
Yes. Agreed. George, Sirota's wife Emily is a dem in the Colorado House. Yes, if he ever steps outside the lines, I'm betting she will back to social work, hoping for peace. Thanks, George. Nocturnal Human, how long did the world wait to fight the Nazis? How long will the world wait now to fight the Zionists? Yep.
Yeah, things happen faster these days.
That's true. Excuse me, Sunrise. Maybe have William Good on to speak about Karen Bass's failed homeless program, Scientology, and tracking UCLA attackers. Yeah, we're going to start doing a lot more interviews because now we're going to start pre-recording some of our interviews, which will actually free us up to do more because we won't have to schedule them around when we're live. Yeah, I think we'll be able to do a lot more of them. So I think that is a good plan. Landrew, let's get another cowbell out and another sound drop for Landrew. Look at Landrew showering us today. Landrew, I thought you were mad at us about when we talked about Jill Stein. But I'm happy to see you back. I'm fighting.
Is he a Stein guy?
I don't know. I thought I read that somewhere. People are saying that. I am fighting the doomer part of me that thinks nuclear war is unstoppable now with DC, lowercase for disrespect, yes. Believing nuclear war is winnable.
Landrew is dead.
But he's not. Yeah. He's not.
No, he's not. And it's not winnable. No, nuclear war is not winnable. I'm fighting the doomer part that thinks it's unstoppable with DC believing nuclear war is winnable. Yeah, I understand. I understand. No one wins that. No one wins that.
I am just saying, we got some people with some very strange fetishes in our chat.
Yeah, exactly. Indeed. All right, we got one more segment today.
And Elysian Fields makes a good point. When I was a horse and carriage driver, back when New York was still kind of interesting, there were a lot of prostitutes who used to work right alongside us outside the Oak Room, back when the plaza was still mostly a hotel. The high-end hookers would work outside the Oak Room. And it's funny, there's a whole culture of street hustlers because you're all kind of, in a weird way, making your living the same way. So you all kind of bond. So, So you talk to the prostitute. How's it going? Slow tonight. You?
Slow tonight, yeah.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
So yes, you're right. I should not insult the community of kind-hearted whores that I've known by comparing them to Dana Bash.
I did a whole monologue about whores at the Jose Vega event. You can go watch that. I think you'll get.
Oh yeah,
you'll
that
get
was great.
You get
that
a
was
sense
great.
of it there.
Yeah,
that's how I introduced Jose.
That was a great
monologue
bit.
about whores.
Yeah,
yeah. Indeed. All right, folks, we got one more segment on the day, and then we'll take the rest of our super chats and Rumble rants if you got any more of those after this piece. This is a piece that went viral, up to a few million views right now on Twitter alone. I'm sure it's got even more on the other platforms. But here's a man who I would love to see David Sirota try and pitch him a vote for Joe Biden. This is someone who really could use that talking to. This guy went viral for just really articulating in a very powerful and emotionally raw way the working class struggle right now.
I don't know how any of you guys are going and going and going. I know you gotta be at the same level of mental health as me. Every day it's something new between the fucking news and the fucking stupid Biden and stupid Trump. And this country's fucked. Every day we're spending more and more money. None of us are getting ahead. The rich people are the ones that are fucking getting ahead. I'm tired of struggling. I've done everything I can. I'm trying to be a good man. I take care of my daughter. I take care of my wife. The best I can. I can't keep going. Every day it's something new. Then on top of that, as if you're not trying to spend money, you have to. Fucking everything's expensive. I own a painting company. I still can't fucking make it. I'm fucking trying, man. I can't look at my daughter and my wife and know I'm failing. I'm fucking Everybody wake up. It's time to stand up. It's time to be tired of this. It's our turn to fucking eat. I want to eat. I want my family to eat. I want you guys to eat. Stand up. Let's go. Stand up, man. Let's fucking eat. I'm tired. Let's help each other. I don't care what your political affiliation is. I don't care what fucking color you are. If you are not eating and you're struggling, eat with me. Let's struggle together then. Let's be a team.
So, you know, a lot sticks out at me from that, but the line, I can't look at my daughter and my wife and know I'm failing. When you hear about the war on men in this country and in this culture, the real war on men is not coming from, you know, a woke cartoon show or sitcoms or anything. The war on men is the economic war on working people in general, which tends to hit men harder because men are evolutionarily, if that's a word, disposed to be producers and providers. And when they cannot do that, that hits them very hard. We've all been in that situation where, and when you have responsibilities to people, I can't look at my daughter or my wife and know I'm failing. It hits harder than just economic pain. It cuts to who you are as a person, because when a man cannot go out and produce and provide, it instills in them the ultimate fear, which is that they are unvaluable as people, not just unvaluable in the market, but unvaluable as a person, unvaluable to the people you love. And that is the scariest thought in the world. I'm not saying women don't feel that, but I'm saying the economic pressure on top of that hits working class men especially hard. And this is a guy who is clearly at his breaking point and is clearly doing the best he fucking can. He owns a painting company. Just look at him. Does this look like a guy who's taking it easy? Does this look like a guy who's going easy on himself? No, looks like a guy who's trying as hard as he can. There are only so many hours in the day you can go out and paint. There's only so much you can do. And he says there, we don't even want to spend money, but we have to. Things cost so much, right? There comes a point where you are just up against it all, and that's where working people are right now, and that's part of why that went as viral as it did.
Well, he wasn't at this point, but my friend Joe passed away a few years ago. He was a union painter, and he had a contracting business on the side. And he is a big part of why I have the politics that I do, because I saw what they did to him. He started out, this is under Democrats. This is New York, man. It's a Democrat town. Painting was a good union job. And then eventually they fired all the union painters and then offered them their jobs back as contractors at a fraction of the pay. And he had 2 kids and a wife and a mortgage and all that. And he would call me up raging. He never got where this guy is, poor man, but raging. Does that have anything to do with the cancer that eventually killed him? I'm sure it didn't help that though so many years of his life were spent watching his ability to support his family erode, and there was nothing that he could do about it, fighting these powerless forces. He would tell me the answers he would get from union leaders and how they were all in the pockets of these people. They wouldn't do anything for him or for his coworkers. You look at this, and this is a big part of why I say we're past regular order democracy. Like, you really need to take down the system. You really need to take it down. And I think that's what he is also trying to say. Let's unite as a working class. What you have to remember when you look at somebody who's been pushed to this point is this is why so often fascism is an outcome of a feckless elite liberalism, because he is prime pickings for a demagogue. Because why not? What the hell's democracy doing for this guy? Go vote harder. You get somebody who goes and speaks the language of the Voke, of the good people of the soil, of America first. And, he criticizes Trump. He does recognize that Trump didn't do anything for him. What if you get a more credible Trump? What if you, hey, Hitler did fix the economy, right? I mean, it was better than it was before for working people, right? Built the Autobahn, got the factories back up and running. Now, it's not that you cannot formulate a left response to what he's saying, working class solidarity, movements, unions. Unfortunately, the left is so dominated by clowns, just absolute fucking clowns, that they're really no match for a good fascist appeal. But you have to articulate an answer to this guy one way or the other. And unfortunately, whether it's through intelligence services manipulation, as I've speculated regarding the Green Party suppressing talent on the left, not allowing anybody who would really have an answer to this guy's inherent question to rise to a position of prominence such that this guy would never hear of him, but they'll let the Trumps go through because they're not any real threat to corporate power. In fact, they're going to empower the corporations. But when I see something like this, my heart breaks for him, but I also say that the ground is very fertile for a fascist nationalist uprising, not of the farcical nature of Trump's, but a real one.
Well, what makes that even more likely is the fact that the Democratic Party explicitly in 2016 made it their goal to purge people like him from their ranks. I was arguing with a guy on Facebook who I knew
they've been doing that since the 70s.
No, but in 2016 it was overt. You had literally. I mean, I was talking to a guy on Facebook, just going back and forth with a guy, just a lovely guy, friend of mine who I always assumed his politics were more or less mine. And when we had these conversations, fuck the white working class, he said. Literally, fuck the WWC. That's what they called them. Sure. They made a little moniker. Fuck them. And that was when I was like, well, wait a minute. That's not what I signed up for. I'm not on board with that. If you're for the working class, if you have a class analysis at all, you know that there are not carve-outs for certain colors or certain ethnicities or certain religions within working people. You have to unite working people as workers. That is what distinguishes workers from bosses, workers from owners, workers from lobbyists, from politicians. This is how we delineate these things. So if you have a class analysis, you can't say a thing like fuck the WWC. What a clown. What an idiot. And we're not even talking about like the Green Party. This is just like a shit lib, right?
Right.
So you have people who are just overtly and openly hostile to guys like this who still think of themselves as being on the left. I mean, that's just an amazing formulation.
Sure.
That you think of yourself as on the side of good people, specifically because of your contempt for guys like this. That's just stunning. And then you have the other sort of set you're talking about, like the Greens, like the people who, they have a class analysis, but they're so easily, distracted or funneled into these other sort of pet causes that sort of very, very simple power analysis never becomes as front and center as it should.
Well, and this is why for as long as we've had the show and down to this day, lately because of the douchebag dialogues, I've been speaking more about the anti-woke grift, but I've made it clear it's the flip side of the same grift. It is so, I cannot overstate how damaging it is to any prospect of the left having any meaningful power for them to basically be putting out the message to this guy, you have privilege.
Right. Exactly. Right.
This is what I mean by the left is full of clowns. Because as with the Green Party, they have a class analysis. And from what I've seen, they also tend to be woke in that way, in that very damaging to working class solidarity way. My core critique of these culture wars is that they are intentionally designed to divide working class people. And when you say to that, oh, you're a class reductionist, no, that can be true. And systemic racism, as I demonstrated yesterday, can be real.
Right.
Can we handle complex ideas on the left, or does everything have to be jumping up and shouting and foaming at the mouth and holding a sign and virtue signaling? And that's what it is for so many people. For so many people, they just want to show how pure they are and how holy they are. When you get into some various, I don't even want to use the word because I don't want to deal with the comments. When you get into some various leftist theories, okay, so you want to talk about solidarity. Does it build solidarity every time somebody wants to disagree with you for you to go, well, you haven't read about the 1923 conference. You're so stupid. Is that persuading people? Is that right. Building solidarity? That's what I mean. Like, if I were a betting man, my money's on the fascists, because the left is dominated by people who want to insult guys like this, want to insult guys like us, who want to insult guys, women, whatever, who disagree. They just, it's a big fucking wank fest, because the natural leftists got driven out of the left a very long time ago by the new left that is obsessed with these arcane identity issues, and that was quite by design. So what you have left are the dregs. You don't have the real people. You don't listen, man. This guy might take down the system. If you can get him on your side, this guy's going to go balls to the walls for you. These people talking about the white working class, man, they'll fold like an end table at the first pepper spray.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
The first mist of pepper spray, they're going, oh my God, my eyes. You're not taking down nothing with these fucking people. They just want to jerk off and talk about theory, whether it's intersectional theory, whether it's Marxist theory. They just want to talk about bullshit, man. And they're doing absolutely nothing to serve people like this. Not that the fascists are, but they make a better case. At least they talk the language. At least they'll approach this guy and say, no, it's not you, it's them.
Right.
Instead of saying it's not them, it's you. That's the left formulation.
It's not them, it's you. Ivan Ivanovich, thanks for the $4.99. Is Bree coming back? Yeah,
she was supposed to be on today. She lost track of time.
Yeah, right. She was supposed to be on today. We planned the whole show in case she didn't.
Yeah.
We should advertise her every single time.
Yeah.
Sparky.
She'll always be in the thumbnail.
In the thumbnail. My cousin had rent control on West 21st Street, where she lived from the early 60s. In the 90s, she paid $4.50 a month. Rent control helps keep the culture, which made an area attractive in the first place. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Indeed. John Locke, thanks for the $20. Who the fuck gave my inner voice a social media account? Yep, that's how that guy sounds to a lot of people, I'm sure.
Yep.
I am sure of that. Sparky. Sparky's really making it rain today. Thank you, Sparky. Whether dissident dialogues, monk debates, or revisionist Confederate museums, they're all examples of elite lemmings fooling themselves into believing that they're good little boys and girls. Thank you. Tom, that guy crying is obviously a crisis actor spreading misinformation to damage Joe Biden. He probably works for the Kremlin.
I thought I heard a little bit of an accent.
Yeah. That should be a Rachel Maddow segment. She should do a segment on him. This is the new foreign influence campaign.
So there's a little chatter here. No, in all seriousness, we do plan on interviewing Brianna. Like I said, our new policy, and it's not just for that reason. Just it can be very hard to schedule interviews around when you live stream. Like, there are a lot of people who are available, but not when you stream. And actually, originally, Bree offered to do that, and now I wish we had, because I'm sure we would have gotten it in the can if we had just scheduled it at her convenience. So yeah, no, we do plan on doing that. Like, look, man, we're going to joke about it. What do you want?
Yeah, exactly. The color blue will file a defamation lawsuit against Netanyahu for always wearing a blue tie with the white and blue Israel flag and then mouthing evil words all the time. Yes, it is a waste of a nice color. I agree with that. Just in time. This is where Jimmy and Taibbi have lost the plot. They make fun of MMT, but MMT is obviously right. Deficits don't matter. Redirect trillions spent on war to the people. I think if you do, all right, I don't want to get into MMT this morning, but to me, the thing that I haven't heard one of the MMT proponents be able to answer is the question of, well, does that theory only work under the pretext of a war machine? Like, without a military-industrial complex to maintain the hegemonic properties of the dollar, how do you do that?
Exactly.
So how do you dismantle
that's the
the
part
war
they
machine?
can never answer.
Yeah, I've just never heard. And I'm not saying that there's no answer for it. I'm just saying I've not heard that. So I would like to hear that answered, because to me is how it's all. That seems to be what undergirds the whole thing. You just take it as a given that the dollar will dominate. Well, how can the dollar dominate forever? That has to be enforced.
That's never
somehow.
happened before.
It has to be enforced somehow. It has to be enforced by a military that backs genocides in Gaza to maintain our aircraft carrier strength in that region. Like, I just don't know what their answer for that is. I'm not saying they don't have one. I'm just saying I've never heard it.
It always reminds me of the old Steve Martin joke. You can be a millionaire and never pay taxes. First, get $1 million.
Right.
Okay. So how do you do that?
I just got accepted into the Dock Builders Union, and these stories scare the fuck out of me. Well, congratulations on your new job there. The unions are currently supporting guys like George Latimer, whose main job is to just shill for Israel. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me that he has their support. You might want to do an election night live stream on Tuesday to live stream the results of that primary, because that could be interesting. That might be something worth doing.
All right.
There needs to be some major league trust busting, says Sparky. Bring back small and regional businesses, stop industry consolidation, and the war on small business. Thank you, Sparky, very much for that. Nocturnal Human, try and get an interview with that guy and start a fundraiser for him. People have reached out to him, but I don't know if they've found the real guy. I will look out for that, though, because you're right. That would be a very good thing to do.
Yeah.
Live interviews are more compelling, especially when the guests can see how many people are watching and the chat. Yes, I mean, in general, the drama is there. It's a trade-off. And we're not saying we'll never do a live interview again. There are some people who we've done interviews with before who are, reputable and solid, who we can do that with. But, the chat is a double-edged sword. Sometimes if you we would like to interview people who are
fucking animals.
Maybe right. There are some people we'd like to interview who are perhaps more controversial in this corner of this space than others. And if we have to worry about them reading
You murdered my misery!
Exactly. If we have to worry about them reading incessant trolling from you guys, that could be a draw. That could be a deterrent at points. The reason taxes exist is to obligate you to participate in the economy. If you don't pay or participate, they steal your house, wife, and throw you in jail. That's the basis for all economies. Thank you, user name, for the $5. Appreciate that very much. All right, we got Movie Magus 2. I'm convinced Sparky is a millionaire. Yeah, Sparky makes it rain. We appreciate Sparky and everybody here today. Thanks, Landrew, for those 2 C notes you showered us with.
Thank you.
That helps make the day's work for sure. We appreciate all you guys for being here today. We thank you very much. That is our show. That is our week. We will see you guys again on Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. That is when we are next on. We appreciate you all being here. Thank you guys very much in the YouTube chat, in the Rumble chat. Hit that like button on the way out to boost this stream. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that follow button over on Rumble. And we will see you guys all in just a few days this Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Appreciate you all being here this morning. Until we see you again, be safe and be well.
Courage.
Please clap.